Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited to be able to introduce Jimmy, who pinch hit at the last moment, and I'm super grateful for that. If you don't know Jimmy, he is the life and leadership locksmith, and he helps his clients unlock the shortcut to achieve their biggest dreams, reach their highest energy, and attain total work-life fulfillment. With over 30 years of talent management and leadership development experience, Jimmy creates a space to work together to generate provocative insights, positive mindsets, and powerful outcomes. When he's not coaching, speaking, or podcasting, he serves as chair of the Ambassador Committee of the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, the VP of Programming for ICF's Programming Committee, and he is also the Director of Mentorship for Association for Talent Development, South Florida, and VP Treasurer for African Orphan Educational Foundation. That's a mouthful, Jimmy, but I can attest to how generous you are with your time and your expertise. And if you don't know this, I'm excited for his presentation because he is both a learner and a trainer. So this is going to be jam-packed. So thanks for joining. Wow. Have at it, Jimmy.
Thank you so much. Well, that was lovely. I don't know who wrote that, but that was beautiful. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
That was really great. It's so good to see all my friends here today. So thank you very much for joining. I know my background looks a little bit like a jail cell, but it's really just a telephone booth at the Venture X here in Palm Beach Gardens. So I'm so glad that I get to be a pinch hitter today, and it was totally unexpected. I did not see it coming last week, and yet I was like, hey, this is a great opportunity to bring a really interesting topic to our coaches. And quite honestly, I've never been on this side of the microphone. I get to like present to you guys. I'm always either hosting or sitting and listening and engaging when I can. So this should be a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys are ready to learn a little bit and have some fun and also get to grow in your own ways. I am going to share my screen. And there we go. All right. And it should be coming now. All right. So as Karen had said, I help you guys unlock the shortcut. And it can be in health, wealth, leadership, or relationship. I love finding shortcuts to make life better, make life easier, and figure out how we can do things a little bit better, whether it's for ourselves or for someone else. So today's talk is the other AI. And we all know about artificial intelligence. That is the AI that most of us are familiar with right now because there's a lot of buzz about that. And some people think it's going to take our jobs away, right? The AI, if we're a content creator or some sort of presenter, trainer, or whatever, then AI is going to take our jobs away. Let me just tell you, folks, it's not. It's going to make your life a little bit easier, in fact. It can help you a lot. So continue to use artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. They're fantastic resources. And I will tell you this, I used it for this presentation today and one that I did this past Saturday. And I didn't take everything it gave me, but it's a great prompt for coming up with some basic ideas and then take what you can from it and build off of it and make your great presentation that you want to do. With that said, this is Appreciative Inquiry for work, life, and self. Appreciative Inquiry is typically used for organizational design or organizational development. And so it was developed way back in 1987 with David Cooperrider and, oh, I'm going to mess up his name, Suresh Savatsva. I can't remember exactly, but it's something like that. Anyway, the two of them worked in the psychology field of organizational development, and they basically came up with the idea, a theory, a methodology of how do we do organizational design differently? How do we put together, how do we work through project management and even team building and figuring out how we solve problems more from an asset-based perspective, a strengths-based perspective, as opposed to figuring out what's wrong here. How do we what kinds of deficits do we have? What are our weaknesses? So instead of looking at it as a weakness reducing method of solving a problem, they looked at it like, let's work with what we've got. What do we have on hand? What qualities do we possess as an individual and as a team? And how can we use those positive aspects to solve the problem before us? So if we have an organizational problem, what can we look at inside to figure out how to do that? If we have a project that we're trying to achieve, a vision that we want to achieve, how can we use what we currently have in-house to move us forward? And so it's a little bit different, right? It's a radical approach, because normally we look at things are like, all right, what do we have to fix? What do we have to get rid of? What resources do we need to retain? And what weaknesses do we need to diminish or abolish in order to get this thing accomplished? And this is really finding positive ways to move forward. And the great thing is, it's all within us. We have all of these aspects with us. When we think about strengths and weaknesses, which ones are the ones that typically move us forward? And you guys feel free to open your mic and talk at any time, or write in the chat if that's your thing. And I can't see the chat, so Karen would have to help me if anything shows up in there.
I think weaknesses are typically where people see the areas of opportunity to move forward, like typically.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? Strengths versus weaknesses? Well, typically strengths are what pull us through. Reducing our weaknesses does not necessarily propel us to the next level. It might smooth things a little bit in a certain area. It might allow us a certain space to move forward if we have glaring weaknesses in some space. But it's our strengths that actually move us forward. You know, we always want to rely on our strengths, and being positive is a big part of that. Now, let's think about what AI, and again, this AI is Appreciative Inquiry, what it does for us. It's creative, it's effective, it's positive, and it's sustainable. And it's creative because we don't typically look at our strengths when we're trying to solve a problem. We typically look at our weaknesses and like, what do I have to fix here? What's wrong? But we're looking at our strengths. We're looking at the things that we're really good at. It's effective because we already do it. We already have this quality within us. And so it's easier for us to amplify a strength in order to propel us forward. It's a lot easier than trying to shake a bad habit or learn a new skill. And so it's going to be more effective because we already possess this quality or this characteristic or skill. We just have to put it to better use. It's also positive because, well, it's just positive. We're looking at the positive within us. We're not looking at the negative. We're seeking the positive and how can we move this forward so that we can create a better space for ourselves and our team or organization or community, whatever space that might be. And it's sustainable. And again, that all ties back to because it's something that already exists within us. And we're all coaches, so we all know that's our whole shtick, right? That's our modus of operandi. That's that we say we don't have the answers. Our clients have the answers because it's within them. And that's why it's creative and effective and positive and sustainable, because all of that is within our client or our coachee. And so we don't have to come with the answers. We have to come with the questions. And in that, this is appreciative inquiry. That's what we're going to do. Appreciative. Think about it. Appreciative inquiry is two words, right? One is appreciative. What is appreciative? That's where we show gratitude. We appreciate the strengths and the qualities that we currently possess for the other person or the team or the organization. And then we're going to inquire about it. But we're not going to do it in a negative seeking way. We're going to do it in a discovery way where we can see some of our strengths and qualities are very observable and some are kind of hidden. And as coaches, as we all know, that's one of the things that we do really well is help our clients see the strengths that might not be observable to themselves at that moment. And sometimes we've got to go a layer deeper. So we've got to move about it that way. So
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes.
Shakti made a comment she said, I feel it's valuable to be aware of both strengths and weaknesses. Weaknesses can empower our strengths if and when we have the creative and accepting perspective to learn from the weakness. So
True.
being aware of it, Susan pointed out, being aware of it, yes, but not focusing on them.
100% agree with both points. Absolutely. So yes, we're not saying that it doesn't exist. We're not toxic positivitying this. We're saying, of course, we all know we have weaknesses. We all have areas that we're not so strong at, and being aware of them is critical for us to be aware of. But again, it's an awareness, it's an observation, and go, yes, you know what, that's probably a weakness. That's not something I'm great at. And look at these strengths that I can use to help me in that space. So totally agree, Shakti and Susan, 100%. Let's be aware of those. But that's not what we're going to necessarily work on with appreciative inquiry. No one's appreciative of the weaknesses they have unless they do use them as a springboard to a positive force from it. Now let's think about the power of positivity, or why are we not focusing on the negative? Why are we focusing with appreciative inquiry only on the positive? So I don't know how many people have ever been skiing. I personally have never been skiing. I might like to do it someday, but we've all heard, maybe we've heard the idea of, you know, how can you ski through all those trees and not hit any of them? Like, how do good skiers ski through trees? Does anyone know how they avoid the trees when they're skiing at such high speeds downhill through a forest? Anyone?
I
What do they
imagine
look
you
at?
focus on this, the actual ski, the slope, not the boundaries that are dangerous.
Right. You don't focus on the trees, you focus on the snow in front of you. So when you're skiing, if you look at the trees, you're probably going to steer towards the trees because you're seeing the trees. And for those of us who do not ski, we know that this is a fact because when we drive our cars and we're driving along and something is going on the side of the road and we go to look at it, where does our car go? We start turning that way because we can't help it. It's a part of our perception, our proprioception, and we move towards, much like Susan says, we go towards what we focus on. So if we're skiing and we're looking at the trees, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, slam, we hit the tree. If we say, keep on the snow, keep on the snow, keep on the snow, keep on the snow, we keep on the snow. So we're focusing on the positive here. The positive is we want to keep skiing on the snow. We are aware of the trees. We're just not going to focus on them. Now, let's talk about dreaming. So what do you guys see in this picture here?
Greece.
Greece, exactly. And it looks beautiful, right?
Yes.
So let's all pretend for a moment we're planning a trip to Greece. We're going to Santorini, if that's where this is. So we're going to Greece. And we can imagine, because we have a picture, we've seen pictures, we've seen movies that have this, and we can see what it is. What are we focusing on here when we're dreaming about a place that we want to go to for a vacation for a week or two? Are we focusing on the beautiful ocean, the sea, the white houses, the fun little squiggly roads, the delicious food? Or are we focusing on, oh my God, it's going to be so hot. There's going to be so many tourists. I don't speak the language. Look at those crappy roads. They're all, how am I going to walk on that? And when is someone going to repave that? Oh, look, the doorway, it's rude. Like this place is so old. This is terrible. I'm probably going to get pickpocketed. And what if the food's terrible? What if I get sick? Is that what we think about when we're going on our vacations? Is that what propels us to go on our vacation and enjoy ourselves? Yes, we want the full experience, Shelley. We know some of those things are going to happen. Again, we're aware of them, but we don't focus on them because that's not what's going to drive us to the vision, the dream of taking this amazing vacation. What propels us to want to go forward with paying for the flight, the hotel, buying the food, and going there is all the positive that we're going to get out of it. It's not the negative that draws us there. That's only going to hold us back. That's only going to make us think twice, 3 times about, do I really want to do that? Focusing on what we really want in a positive sense is what's going to move us forward. And that's what appreciative inquiry is going to do for us. So appreciative inquiry comes in a 4D cycle. There's discover, dream, design. And here's where I've changed things. In the original design or the original theory, it's discover, dream, design, and destiny. And that didn't really work for me. So I changed destiny to dare. Number one, destiny is not a verb. Discover, dream, and design are all verbs. Design doesn't have to be, but it is, because it's an action. And so I thought, dare. What do we dare to go forward with? And so for me, the 4D cycle is discover, dream, design, and dare. So before we go into the four parts, the four phases of this 4D cycle, who has any questions or comments that they want to bring forward?
I'm trying to hide my pessimism. Jimmy, you know me. I've had to do a lot. I'm a business consultant, so I do turnaround works. And so many times when it comes to appreciative inquiry, I think, who hired this person? Why do I have to find out what their strengths are? They're so weak. I just want to cut them. I mean, so I'm trying to see it through the lens of how could I work with those people, or if just based on the type of client I work with, that sometimes I just have to do what I do. But I am trying to see it through a lens of, are these people salvageable?
Yeah, a lot of times in the work world, in relationships with family, friends, whatever, at the grocery store, we're always going to come into those challenging points, right? I love your who hired these people? Yeah, it can be a real challenge, and trying to see the positive, trying to see the greatness in your coworkers, subordinates, or bosses, family members, friends, can be a real challenge sometimes. I would say, pocket all that. Every encounter you have with somebody, you can come with the idea that that person's a 10 out of 10. And come with that mindset, come with that attitude that they are doing the best that they can with what they have in this moment in time. Because they probably are. A lot of people don't come to work to screw up, to do a bad job. There might be things going on in their lives that we don't know about. And that might be the very best that they can offer that day. Some days they're amazing. Some days they're not. And a lot of it has to do with what else is going on in their lives. It's not our job to find out what that stuff is, but just to know, hey, you know what? That person's doing the best that they can right now. They're a 10 out of 10. No matter what this, and readjust the scale every single day. If it looks like they're a 5, well, you know what? The 5 is the new 10 for today. And let's treat them like the 10 that is the 5 and see where it goes. Not saying it's easy, but we could do it.
I'd be curious also, if you don't mind me putting this here, Jimmy, based on what you just said, the 5 and the 10, and what is their actual assessment of that number? What do they think it is? Because if they think it's a 5 out of 10, then the question would be, well, what does your 10 out of 10 actually look like? Just, take out of consideration what other people think you need to be doing, but just what does your 10 out of 10 look like? And that would, maybe bring a different perspective.
Sure. And I would say that appreciative inquiry can help us in that regard too. So if someone's not at their best, we might think all right, when is that person at their best? What strengths do they exhibit? What do they show? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What's their mindset like when they are at the 10? Because they can do it. We've seen it before. We've seen it. And they probably need to do some introspection themselves. It's not all on us. They need to see, hey, I'm not at a 10 today. And like you said, their own self-evaluation. I'm at a 5 today. All right, well, what have I done in the past? What shows me that I can be a 10? What strengths? Well, I probably did a little bit more of this. Yeah, maybe I can put a little more energy into that and see where it takes me.
Isn't that where the discovery is, Jimmy?
Totally.
That's to discover. That's
absolutely
coming with curiosity to discover who are they. And
absolutely.
Where is that little bit of gold that they need to see for themselves too?
For sure. So let's look at discover. So discovering, what gives us life? What is it that we possess in ourselves as individuals, for me, for you, for the other person, what is it that gives us life? And I always like to start, I always love to start my coaching conversations with, what are we celebrating? What are you celebrating? What is there worth celebrating today? And it might be something that happened today. It might be something that happened this morning, this weekend, this past month. It might have been a year ago, but there's got to be something to celebrate. So before we jump into the discovery, let's celebrate something just to spark us into a mindset that says, yeah, there's some good here. Might not all be good, but there's some good. And I found some good. So what are we celebrating? And then once we know, once we relish a little bit and we sit and we pause in that celebration and feel that for a bit, now let's talk about our strengths, because we've got a situation in front of us. We've got to figure out what strengths do we have that we can leverage to move us towards our vision, towards our dream, which we'll talk about next. And describe the time. Like, these are all things that we do as coaches, right? Describe a time when we all worked really well. If we're looking at a group setting here and it's a team or it's a workplace scenario, and what we'll do is we're gonna kind of walk through the 4 phases in a workplace situation, but then we're going to go into a breakout after that, and then I'll let you choose how you want to pair up and talk about going through the 4 phases for either yourself or for a relationship. You can also do it for a work situation if you want, but it might be interesting to see, well, all right, we went through work, but how do I do this for my relationship with my significant other or a friend, or a family member? It could be a son or a daughter or a mom or a dad. Or how do I work on myself in this way? And so I'll give you the liberty to choose how you want to go through that during the breakout. But what were the thoughts? And some people dismiss appreciative inquiry because they go, oh, and no offense, Shakti, because this is a common, you're like, well, you're not focusing on any of the negatives. There's no weaknesses. We have problems here. Like, holy cow, what are we supposed to do about these problems? Well, in fact, we have a solution for how to deal with those problems. And I'll talk about that in a second. But the other thing that's so important to watch appreciative inquiry work is, what are the people's mindsets going into it? How do they maintain a mindset of positivity and working towards the vision that they want? If the team doesn't have the mindset, if the individuals don't have the mindset, it's just not going to work very well. And that works for anything. I would dare say that that's going to work with whether you do it as appreciative inquiry, as a project management and organizational design, or if you do some other, quote, traditional method of problem solving. If your mindset's not in it, so that's not a knock on appreciative inquiry. That's a knock on the project management. How are we going, or the change management? How are we going through this change? Well, if people don't have the right mindset, no matter what method you employ, it's not going to work very well. It's just not. So people say, oh, it doesn't work because of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's not going to work anyway. So it's not a knock on appreciative inquiry. It's a knock on the mindset of the people that are doing the work. How are they implementing the change? And if their minds aren't in the right space, then of course it's not going to work. As we think about dream, we think about what might be, what could be in the future. What would a perfect outcome look like? And barring perfection is probably not going to happen, what would a much improved outlook look like? What would an improved team look like? And if we as a team could work better together, what could we achieve? What are the things that could come out of this? So as we approach either our vision that's set forth or the change that's coming that we know has to happen, what would it look like if we all worked really well together? And I know, of course, the flip side of that is, what if we didn't bicker and argue and confront and confound each other and combat instead of collaborate, which are all the negative things? But if we did all the positive things, and instead of talking about them in the negative, but saying, what if we worked in harmony? What if we collaborated? Well, so-and-so is always angry. We're not talking about that. We're saying, what if we came to that person with empathy and compassion? What if positive things? Because here's the thing, when we all only have so much capacity, right? And we can do good, bad, positive, negative. There's not a lot of neutral. There's indifference, but indifference is essentially bad-ish. So if we decide how we want to behave, how we want to think, how we want to act, and what kind of mindset we want to have, if we fill it up with positive, there's a little teeny space for negative. If we choose not to fill it with positive, now we're just leaving anything to come in. So a lot of negative come in. So when we focus on the positive and we think about the positive and we do the positive, again, we only have so many segments in our time to fill. The more, and is it easier to do something that we already do well, or is it easier to take up a new skill and try and, or shake a bad habit or learn a new skill? Which one's easier? Leverage existing strengths. Yes, Shannon, exactly. So it's so much easier. If I'm already good at something, why not leverage that strength? If I have a skill that I have not developed, it's a lot harder to learn that skill because I'm starting in negative zone, right? I've got to first learn it, then I got to start to get good at it. If I'm already good at something, fill the space with more of the stuff that I'm good at, and then the negative stuff doesn't come in. And if I'm already good at it, it's only going to improve the mindset and the performance. So let's look at design. And this one's easy, right? Just come up with the steps. What are the plans? What's the steps to move us forward so that we can move toward this ideal dream situation? What strengths can we leverage? Again, we're aware of the weaknesses. We just don't want to focus on them, because the more we use our strengths, the better we're going to be. Because number one, we're going to be at our best authentic selves because we're using the things that we already possess. And it's taking up the space of, quote, bad behavior. Now, we all know the last question, what else, is probably the greatest, shortest question in the history of questions, because anytime we think we've exhausted our what if, and then our coach says, and what else? And we're like, I don't know. Wait, I've got something. There's always what else. And what else is typically the really good, juicy stuff. That's where we get into the hidden strengths, the areas we haven't thought about in forever, or the things that we thought were lost. And what else, as we all know, is the greatest question that we can ever ask of a client or ourselves. I mean, I have to ask myself that all the time, because I think, oh, yeah, I've run out my answers. That's it. Those are the steps. And then if I ask myself, what else? All right, I could do this. So we always know that what else is the greatest question. And then finally, we have to dare. What do we dare to do? Even though it's a strength, it could be uncomfortable. It might be uncomfortable having to put this forward. It might be a skill we haven't used in a long time. It might be something that we're like, I don't know if this is going to work in this situation, but it's a strength of ours. So we have to dare to be able to go out and do that thing. If we want to achieve that dream, if we've never flown, but we want to go to Greece, we have to dare to be able to get on that plane and go. If we've never eaten Greek food before, we're like, moussaka, who does that? Dare to eat the moussaka. It's delicious. So we have to find, how can we gather up the courage to dare to do the things that we haven't done or won't do? If we're talking about a relationship, what do we dare to do? If we want to improve our relationship, what strength do we want to rely on? What can we do that we've done in the past that we think might have worked? It's a little uncomfortable, but boy, when I do it, I have a great outcome. Can I do it again? I don't know. But finding the courage to dare and do that thing to achieve the dream that we want, that's what's going to make all the difference. And so I propose that being daring is the greatest thing that we can do. Yes, what else is the best question? And daring to do that which we thought we could not is one of the greatest things that we can do for ourselves. Now, I want to put you guys into breakout groups. Hopefully we have enough people to be able to do that. And so what I want you to do is think about, And we'll take a little break before we go into the breakouts to share any thoughts or anything like that, because I'll tell you what the little activity will be. In fact, I'm going to share it now. So it's I just put in the chat the slide deck, so you can see what's all in there. So you'll get these all slides, they're all right there. So go ahead and download that, open it up, because you'll see the breakout questions come right after. And basically, we're just going to go through the 4: discover, dream, design, and dare. And you'll pair up and you'll ask each other, you'll coach each other for 10 minutes and then flip around and coach the other way for 10 minutes. Do we have time for 10 minutes each? Or do we have to cut it short? If it's only like 7 or 8 minutes, maybe we'll do that, Karen. Let me know what I'm doing on time, and then I'll set up the breakout rooms that way. Does anybody have...
We're at 1:05 right now, Jimmy, so we have 25 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So we'll do 8 and 8 so we can talk about it when we come back. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything? I know there was some chat stuff going on, but I didn't get a chance to look at it. And I'm just going to... Let's see, I might go to... Does anybody have any questions? Any comments? Any breakthroughs? Anything they want to dare to bring forth at this moment? No. Silence. Crickets. All right. I am going to... So you can see on here, this is what we're going to do in the breakout. We're going to go discover, dream, design, and dare. So this is all in the PDF that I sent you guys. So the first question is, when you're talking about discover, one person's going to be the coach, the other one will be the client, and walk them through this thing, or do it friend to friend. It doesn't have to be coach to client. You guys do it any way you want. But think about it. How do you want to do it? Do you want to do it as for yourself? So what gives me life? What might I be? What's the ideal look like for me? And what do I dare to do? So take 8 minutes to do that, and then flip it around the other way. So one person can ask the questions and be the coach in this case, and then the other way around. Does that make sense before I stop the share? You guys see the questions? All right. Shakti is back. All right. So are there any questions? Oh, thank you, Shakti. Holy smokes, look at you. So
Yeah,
are there
thank
any
you.
questions about anything that we've talked about so far? Is everybody, I see everybody's still awake, so that's really good news. Is any of this helpful so far?
Yes, very helpful.
Okay, fabulous. All right, what else?
I love that question.
Give us the time.
All right, I am going to set up the rooms, breakout rooms. Oops, hold on. Never everybody in one room. We're going to set it up. I think. All right, well, we're going to set it up this way. Hold on. Got it. 2 to 3. We need to set up a certain time. 17 minutes is too long. Oh no, we're going to do 8 minutes. Okay, so we're going to do 16 minutes. And all right, I'm going to let you guys go. You ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, go. 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 Welcome back to the big room.
I wish I knew the words to some of those songs. It would be so much fun. But that's all I got is welcome back.
Hey, that's all we have.
I know
to
the
do is
teacher,
welcome
the professors,
Mr.
was
Cotter.
Mr. Cotter. Is that his name?
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well done.
16 minutes I thought was going to be like, oh man, we'll get through that like that. And no, I didn't have enough time. Bill.
Next time we'll give you more time. We'll do it again next month. What did you guys, what happened in there?
Well, for me, I feel like I received so much from being able to share, but actually hearing. I think I received much more from hearing what my team, Maureen and Susan, brought in, and their, what they're going through and experiencing in the questions that you put for us. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. What about the other groups?
Yeah,
I
would
just ha-
echo-
oh, sorry,
I'm
Tony.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You're good.
I would echo Shakti. Shelley is like amazing, and I learned from her as she talked about just kind of her path and what makes her feel life and her steps to get there. So I learned a lot. So yeah, thank you for those questions.
I think for
And
me,
I
like,
too, what we did was to jump into Greece
mm,
and to design the steps on how to get there and all of that, and the path that we can take, and the dream, bringing that dream alive, and then steering it according to the that snow, the skiing,
All right.
and to make sure you're focused on the right direction and the path that you're taking. So Tony did get into quite a bit. Disappointed that we didn't have enough time to get into stuff, and that's usually what happens anyway.
Sure. Well, you know what? Before I let Nikki speak, the two of you can certainly meet up, connect after on, off this conversation and pick it back up. Nikki, what about you? What did you learn?
well, I think first and foremost, I work with new hires that come into our organization, and oftentimes when they're learning something new, there's so much focus on the areas of opportunity. So I feel like this for me is just like a big shift as far as like, let's lean into the things that that are already strong. And I think just continuing to kind of reinforce that with them. But Shannon and I were kind of just talking about, I'm kind of at a point where I get to kind of savor where I'm at. And I think taking some time to, be a little bit more mindful of the things that got me to this point, and then continuing to lean into those things as I continue to move forward. So there's much more to unpack there, but we started.
That's awesome. Susan.
I came here because I had an opportunity to be with Jimmy, and I never want to pass that up. And I don't ever feel like I need something, but I always come away with something, and I always learn something. And it keeps my mind open, and it keeps me being curious. And I've done a lot of appreciative inquiry, just part of how I coach, but there's always a nugget. And listening to the people in Maureen and Shakti, I got lots of nuggets. And I like to come away with those nuggets and then kind of reflect on them and feel more in partnership with other coaches in the area. So I appreciated just being here. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Susan. It's always an honor and a pleasure to have you in the room. So thank you so much for joining us today. Maureen, did you have anything you want to share?
It was amazing. It really was. It was amazing going through the rubric, and I think that it has so much application, both in coaching and in teams, and definitely in personal and relational development. I thank you very much for sharing it.
You're
It's
welcome.
really nice.
I'm so glad to hear that. Shannon?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting model to Karen's point earlier stuck in my mind, right? I think there's a natural skepticism that exists around things that feel like they come naturally to us. For example, our own strengths. I think like you were saying, Jimmy, we have these blind spots to seeing what they are, and they're hidden. So that's what we help excavate from our clients. And yeah, I can definitely see this model coming into play. I coach a lot of people in like startups in the tech world. And with that high paced, ever changing environment, there's constant focus on what can we be doing better and how do we optimize and all the metrics. And what I help them see a lot of times is like, how can you already lean into what you are naturally good at? What is the path of least resistance? How can it be easy? And instead of glorifying what feels hard and that's slog. And that comes across as a very novel concept for them. So I think using this model would be really helpful. Like the appreciative inquiry, I could definitely see the application of it. So thanks.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's stuff that we do all the time, but now that we have like a rubric or a formalized process to use it, you can show that to a client and be like, well, here's what we're doing. Oh, okay, right. That makes sense. Yeah, um as I was doing this presentation, it occurred to me at some point, I thought, oh, appreciative inquiry is sort of like the panacea for the pains of change management, because yeah, we've got to learn some new skills. Yeah, we've got to go through this change. And if we focus on what we already have as strengths, what we already do well, and we push those into this change, it just makes it so much easier. It takes the burden off of, ugh, I've got to learn this new thing. Well, what if curiosity is a strength of yours? Well, hey, guess what? Curiosity is a part of this change thing. So what if people are like, oh, I'm awesome under pressure. Let's put that to work. Guess what? It's about to get pressure filled in here. You're awesome under pressure, remember? Look at all the times you've said that. Look at all the times you've done that. And so we can really use appreciative inquiry in change management because it helps alleviate the pains, because we're putting more of ourselves, what's already naturally there, and putting into use. It's just daring ourselves to go forward and put that to use. So I thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for coming. This has been really enjoyable. I love seeing all your faces, and you guys make me smile so hard. I see Karen put the survey in there. Please fill it out.
I did. Thank you, Jimmy, for doing this on such short notice and doing such a great job. I had no doubt that you would. I really appreciate it. And just so you all know it, you can find these, because they're recorded, you can find them on YouTube with all the ones we've done in the past too. So thanks for joining, and thanks for filling out the survey.